Recently, Dataquest has published its 16th edition of annual T-School survey and ranking, along with a new survey of ranking of colleges on Digital Index and Employability Index. To bring this know-how of DQCMR performs rigorous task of compiling the ranking of 100 leading engineering colleges. And to explain this, we have with us Anil Chopra, Vice President Research and Consulting, CyberMedia Research. Anil has over 24 years of experience in the ICT media industry and now drives the strategic initiatives at CMR as well as the group's go-to-market practice. Anil has a knack of spotting the latest technology trend as has conducted many path-breaking market studies, technology priorities, and technology implementations across enterprises in India. He closely tracks the AI space and has done many studies and written expert blogs around the technology. Anil has worked with CyberMedia in various capacities, with his last role being the Group Editor Technology for all CyberMedia publications, including PC Quest, Dataquest, Voice and Data, and CIOL.com. He has also benchmarked and tested a wide variety of IT products and services during his stint with CyberMedia Labs, the country's first vendor-neutral product testing facility. So over to you, Anil.
Hello, I hope you enjoyed all the sessions today and found them useful. It is now time to recognize and honor the top rankers for the DQCMR T-School survey. But before we do that, I'll spend about 10 minutes to explain the survey methodology used this time and how this time's T-School survey is different from the ones done in the previous years. So let me just start off by sharing my screen. T-School survey is one of the oldest surveys that is being done to identify top ranking T schools in the country. And, till now, the survey was basically an annual affair, meaning it was conducted only once a year. This year, however, it was decided to run it as a program with multiple surveys because there are several other aspects of T schools that have, become critical today. One of them is the digital infrastructure or the ability to impart online education. It's something that was, I guess, forced upon us, due to the pandemic. Second is employability, or the ability of the institute to gear up its students for the market so that they become more employable. So in addition to the main T-School survey rankings that are done every year, this time we conducted two more surveys, one to really calculate the digital index and the second to calculate the employability index of each T-School. The findings from each of these surveys have been published in 3 different editions of Dataquest, and I would urge you to try to get hold of a copy because the insights are quite interesting. 350 T-schools participated in this activity, out of which we ranked the top 100. And as a part of the employability survey, we also reached out to 400 recruitment managers in enterprises to really understand what they look for in students while recruiting from various institutes. CMR framed structured questionnaires for each survey and reached out to all the institutes and HR managers. Data was collected both online as well as through face-to-face surveys. We only considered colleges that were established 4 years or before that and were offering BTech, BE or similar graduate level technical institutes. A little more about each of these surveys that we did. Now, the digital index survey was conceptualized, keeping in mind the increase in digitization amongst engineering colleges for imparting technical education. Actually, if you look at it, the pandemic accelerated the pace of digitization efforts of all industries. And for the education segment, there was no other option but to move along this path. So online classes have therefore, become very, very common, as we all know. Enabling this is not an easy task. And every institute really had to take this journey, and our survey really aimed to understand how different T-schools really did it. We had participation from across tiers of engineering colleges in this survey, including prestigious IIITs, NITs, and even other tier 3 private and government institutes. And all the information that we collected was basically covered under CMR's proprietary time framework, which is basically, teaching, infrastructure, motivation, and environment. To really give you an idea, when we look at the T, we look at the technologies that are used, in teaching and learning, and, some of the digital resources that are used by the faculty. And the I is for the IT, which is all the hardware and software that is being used by the institutes. The M is for the attitude towards ICT adoption and how willing are they really to spend and invest in their digital infrastructure. And lastly, the E stands for the platform that we used for running applications, the ICT policy, and what kind of ICT policy they had in place and so on. So the weightages for each one are given in front of you, which were basically used to arrive at the rankings and all. And 80% of the institutes that participated in this particular survey were private institutes. As far as the the employability index is concerned, the as we all know, that employability has kind of become a key aspect in determining the success and reputation of an institute, right? So we conducted this survey to really understand what various institutes were doing to make their students more employable. Participation again was from tiers of various engineering colleges, including prestigious IITs, NITs, triple ITs, private and government institutes. And in addition, as I mentioned earlier, we also reached out to 400 recruitment managers in this survey. And this time, 87% of the institutes that participated were private. The final score that was obtained for each parameter, factored in with the predefined weights to produce the overall employability index. And it was calculated on 4 broad parameters. If I look at it, that is, one is the placement record, which is basically how many students were really placed and what was the kind of pass out ratio for each institute. The campus placement activity, the activities that the institute did in terms of inviting companies to the campus for placement and number of students who really opted for campus placement. We looked at the industry engagement being done by each institute, which was in terms of the incubation centers that have been opened and how whether they're supported by various industries, bodies, have they signed MOUs with various private players in the market. So essentially looking at how active the institute was with the industry. And lastly, of course, the salary, which is basically the median salary for the the institute, the students that got placed, and the maximum salary per annum that of the students that got placed. So essentially, this was really done for the employability index. And then we had, of course, the final rankings for the survey. And this was the same as we do every year, but this time, of course, inputs were taken from the first 2 surveys as well to arrive at the rankings. Here again, we had participation from across tiers of colleges, including prestigious triple ITs and NITs. The information that was collected was covered under CMR's proprietary PACE framework, which stands for placements, academics, campus infrastructure, and engagement. And as you can see, this is basically the weightage that we really use to arrive at the for each of the parameters. To delve a little bit more in detail, the placement really stands for the number of students that were really placed, the average packages that were offered, and the highest package that was offered. The academics involved, how much of permanent faculty that the institute had, and the number of PhDs in each faculty, what kind of research repository they really had, how many research papers that they have published by the faculty of the institute, and the engagement basically is again what kind of industry academia participation and partnerships have really been done, and what sort of research has been done with that is industry focused or government focused and so on. And lastly, of course, the campus infrastructure is looking at the campus area and the physical infrastructure of each institute. And in this survey, 85% of the institutes that really participated were private. So that's basically in a nutshell what the T-School program, I should call it, was all about. Rather than an annual survey, we actually broke it up into 3 different programs to evaluate various aspects of each of the T-schools. So it is now really time, to kind of congratulate. I'd like to congratulate all the winners, and it is time to kind of celebrate their achievement. This was the overall methodology that was followed for the rankings. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Anil, for explaining about the survey and the ranking process by Dataquest.